I've always enjoyed the peace and quiet of living alone. After a long day at work, there's nothing better than coming home to my little apartment, cooking a simple dinner, and unwinding a good book or a TV show. It's a routine that I've come to love, but one night, everything changed, and now I can't shake the feeling that my sanctuary is no longer safe. It was a Friday night, and I had just settled into bed with a book. My apartment is on the second floor of an old building, and my bedroom window overlooks a narrow alley that rarely sees any foot traffic. I liked the isolation. It made me feel secure, as if the world outside was miles away. I was deep into my book when I heard a sound from outside. It was a faint, scrapping sound, like something or someone was moving through the alley. I brushed it off at first, assuming it was a stray cat or the wind rustling through the trash cans. But then I heard it again, louder this time. I put down my book and listened. The sound continued, a rhythmic shuffling that seemed to be getting closer. I felt a prickle of unease. My apartment is in a relatively safe neighborhood, but it's not immune to the occasional break-in or vandalism. I got up and walked to the window, peering out into the darkness. The alley was dimly lit by a single flickering streetlight, casting long shadows against the walls. At first, I saw nothing out of the ordinary, but then movement caught my eye. There, standing just outside the reach of the streetlight, was a man. He was tall and thin, dressed in dark clothes that blended into the night. His face was obscured by a hood, but I could see the glint of his eyes as he stared directly at my window. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly stepped back, hoping he hadn't seen me. I grabbed my phone and considered calling the police, but I hesitated. What would I say? That there was a man standing in the alley? He hadn't done anything wrong, yet. I decided to keep watching to see if he would move on. I turned off the lights in my apartment, making it harder for him to see inside, and cautiously peered out from behind the curtain. He was still there, his gaze fixed on my window. He hadn't moved an inch. Minutes passed, feeling like hours. The man remained emotionless, just watching. A chill ran down my spine. Why was he standing there? What did he want? I was about to call the police when he finally moved. Slowly, he turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows at the far end of the alley. I breathed a sigh of relief, but my heart was still pounding. I double-checked the locks on my windows and doors, making sure everything was secure before trying to get some sleep. But sleep didn't come easily that night. The next morning, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. I kept replaying the scene in my head, wondering if I had imagined the whole thing, but I knew I hadn't. I decided to talk to my neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, who had lived in the building for decades and knew everything that went on around here. When I mentioned the man in the alley, her face grew serious. "You're not the first to see him," she said quietly. "Several people have reported a strange man lurking around at night. No one knows who he is or what he wants, but it's got everyone on edge." That afternoon, I went to the hardware store and bought additional locks for my window and doors. I wasn't taking any chances. As night fell, I found myself constantly glancing out the window, half expecting to see him again. Days passed without any further incidents, and I began to relax, thinking maybe it was just a one-time occurrence. But then, one night, as I was getting ready for bed, I heard it again, the faint scrapping sound from the alley. I froze, my heart racing. I turned off the lights and crept to the window, my hands trembling. There he was, standing in the same spot as before, his eyes fixed on my window. This time, I didn't hesitate. I called the police, my voice shaking as I described the situation. They arrived quickly, but by the time they searched the alley, the man was gone, leaving no trace behind. The police promised to keep an eye on the area, but I knew they couldn't be there all the time. Every night since, I've been haunted by the image of that man, his piercing eyes staring up at me. My once peaceful apartment now feels like a prison, and I can't escape the feeling that he's still out there, watching, waiting.